Hello and welcome everyone to episode number 92 at the Indie Football Podcast. And yes, this is a culmination of 3 beautiful years so far for the podcast. And I think after the first 6 episodes, it is only the second time or the third time actually that it's only me and you for this episode, Anukar sir.
Yeah, it's not a lot of time that we spend only nowadays, but it's kind of good that we have got this alone time and it's open for review, so it's like an OnlyFans of football podcasts. But yeah, on a serious note, it's been 3 beautiful years. It's been a lot of learnings. It's been a lot of hard work, also a lot of
Yes.
lessons learned, a lot of positives, a few glitches here and there. But overall, it's been something which has been an inspiring journey and something which has made us as better people personally and professionally. So I'm like really happy, and I have a big smile on my face when I think about it. And of course, whenever I do this, every episode, I have known that I have done it with the best man possible. So yeah, thank you, Vaipan, for the times we have spent so far and all. And yeah, of course, you can give your take on how the last 3 years have been for you, uh, podcast wise, personal life, everything that you
Yeah,
want.
absolutely. Ever since we had decided like 3, 4 days ago about when we are going to record this anniversary episode of ours, I was just thinking about what probably to name it, and the best name so far, which might probably uh, be the title of this episode, if of course, unless you come up with an absolutely banger name for this episode, sir, is basically people that inspire this
Yeah,
podcast, people that inspire
yeah.
IFP, because at the end of the day, 92 episodes in 36 months, and actually part of the reason why I'll adjudge myself as a above average person when it comes to basic math is the immense cricket consumption that I'd done when I was younger, and 92 episodes in 36 months, we are averaging more than 2.5 episodes per month, which I feel, looking back at our journey, it is a pretty significant achievement. Only recently, I was seeing that most podcasts don't go beyond the 10th episode. More than 80 to 85% of podcasts that have been started in the last decade or so, only 10% of them have gone beyond the 10th episode, which really shows
uh,
something. And it is quite interesting, why when as soon as I read this, and this was probably 1 week ago, and I was just walking you. I have shared with you that I am trying to lose weight in my journey of probably being medically absolutely fit, and I was jogging around, and after I read this podcast, there's this uncle who like asked us, who just in general, he's a very affable 70-year-old in our society. We have known them for as long as possible. uh, he came and asked me, what are you doing and how's life going? And I said, yes, I have this podcast. I am joining Delhi Capitals next month, and yeah, we are doing as much as we can here there. And he ended up by saying that, as long as you are busy, it's good, and always remember that everything that you do in your career pays you at the end of it. At the first half of your career, you must enjoy what you do. You must focus on what kind of value you can bring, and that is
Absolutely.
something that really, that I feel is one of our, and I'm sure you'll agree, sir, it is one of our driving forces when we kind of do this, and it has developed into a bit of a great identity every time we walk into a social environment, right, sir? How's the experience been for you, being the co-host, co-founder of a podcast for 3 years now?
Absolutely. Every day has been, waking up to it has been, like even through the very good times, it's something which makes me happier, which widens the smile. On days when, things can kind of get a bit rough, that, you have something to get back upon, that you have a podcast. When you think about the number of episodes we have done, the kind of guests we have had, the people we have met, which of course is like today's theme. I think it brings a big smile on my face when I see uh, the lives we have hosted, and the people that come to them, how passionate they are about their football, about life in general, the experiences they have had. We have had people, who have been in different status of life. People as young as Daksh, who
Yeah.
when he came to the podcast was barely 17 or 18, and people
Yeah.
as I would say senior as Errol,
Yeah.
who are I think if I'm being honest, I think on the good side of 70, for
Yeah.
that matter. So somewhere around that. Sorry, Errol, if I am making a mistake.
I think
So
I think that's a I think that is something that we must ask him on the group that we have with him today.
yeah, but I mean, the good part about it is that it has led to us learning and learning a lot of things when it comes to the podcasting business, also about learning about more about the sports industry, the entertainment industry, also what people like, what is working, what is not. Social media sometimes has been very kind to us. Some reels have
Yeah.
gone really viral, some reels have gone so bad that I have wanted to bury myself in the ground. So I mean, every day has been a new experience. We as co-founders have learned a lot, and like every person within the team also has taught us so much, for that matter. So it's great. We had the Mumbai event at the start of the year, which I think
Yeah.
about, which every time brings a big smile on my face. How we managed everything within a week, how our team members Shruti, Aditya, Shrey, they were all working together in unison. How like they created that reel, like it's all very good, how managing a crowd of over 150 people, managing different brands to different sponsorships. Like when you see that happening, it sometimes seems too good to be true, and I think that's what makes it special. And talking about special, what's been your favorite and most special moment in the last 1 year?
Okay, yes, I did ponder about this a bit, and it has to be the Kolkata trip, sir. Of course we did miss your physical presence over there, but just to look back at how those 3 4 days had gone for us, the entire planning and the anticipation and the excitement around it starts as soon as you plan for the trip, right? I remember it was just after the IPL season ended, which is of
Yeah.
course 2 3 months of this year where I had like minimal inputs into what the podcast was doing. But of course, that goes to show how much you had managed things at your own end, which is also the large part of the Mumbai event that we had done, that you just spoke about in February. But the Kolkata trip was something different, sir, because as soon as we met there, I remember me and Divyansh, we were coming through trains. Aditya and Dhruti, they had taken flights to that place, and just for us to keep updating each other ever since we landed in the city of joy, and it really really added to the joy quotient of our lives for those 3 4 moments, because it was the last match of Sunil Chetri, in his international career, like someone who is so decorated, someone who goes down as undoubtedly as one of the legends of our game. And to be honest, I will. The central theme of this episode is the people, as you mentioned. We have been fortunate enough to converse, to know them better over the journey of the last 1 year, especially. And it was just, I would have personally just been happy if all of us had gone to the stadium, cheered for Sunil Chetri, and come back and flown back to Delhi and Mumbai respectively. But Dhruti and Aditya, even before we went there, one month before we even reached Kolkata, they really really made the extra efforts to try and make those media accurate for us, because it's, let's be honest, it is relatively easy to get media accurates for a football match as compared to a cricket match, or for that matter any other sports match in India, if it's not a cricket match, because of course
Right.
cricket's attention spans and the kind of coverage that cricket has is really really huge in
uh,
our country. So you know and at some point of time, and I this actually reminds me that the media accurate that Aditya and Shruti were able to manage,
I know I'm gonna make this real personally.
but anyway, sorry Aditya, but they really went through the efforts of making the accurate. Aditya told me that he went around, spoke to 10 different people. They almost tried Divyan sneaking into that media accurate box as well.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, sir, Dhruti and Aditya, they really watched the entire match from the sidelines, and for me it was it was just a great experience for us to facilitate this kind of process for people who work around us.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
might everyone gets paid for different kinds of work that they do, but the fact that through the hard work of what you and I were able to bring to this podcast, the money that we were able to bring to this podcast, the experience that we were able to give them over there, I of course enjoyed the match very much, but the fact that we could play a contributing role to add such a big experience to Dhruti and Aditya, who are big, huge Indian football fans. They follow Indian football probably more than even you and I do. You know.
Yeah, yeah, 100%,
So
100%, 100%.
yeah, so and then once that match was over, I had some more friends over. My father was kind enough to lend the guest house of my father's company. Uh, Not my father's company, the company in which my father works, which is,
Hmm.
had it been my
I
father's.
feel, I feel it's working only because uncle is working so well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So for me, sir, that definitely was the standout moment of the year for me, and I hope next year Messi is playing in India 2025. The Kerala government has announced it. I hope that becomes our next big physical meeting where even you can be a part of it, sir. But same question to you, sir. For you, what has been the biggest moment of this year?
Before I answer that question, I just wanted to say that whatever you just said actually is very beautiful, and how you talked about the people experience. The only downside to it is that we are gonna lose one writer after this podcast because you didn't
Yeah.
mention Rahul. He was
Of
also
course.
there.
Yeah,
So it's one right. Like heading into the year without Rahul, I think you'll understand. But yeah,
yeah, yeah.
jokes apart, nahin,
What
of
I'll do
course,
is I will
I
just
totally.
what I'll do is I will just throw 2 kgs of fish to him and he'll like.
Yeah, yeah. I just love when Bengalis are stereotyping other Bengalis. but but yeah. For me, I think without any doubt, on a personal level, it has to be the Mumbai event.
Yeah,
For me, for that matter, because uh, like first of all, we were not planning. It was like something which we were thinking that okay, there are Chelsea fan clubs, we can do something about it. I think it was I think it was Aditi from one of the Chelsea fan clubs who said that maybe we guys can do a screening together. And then I remember putting that idea across. People were like on the creative group which we have with Ruti, Aditya, and the others were pretty supportive of it. They said that maybe we can give it a run for the money, and Aditya of course was like amazing, the man who really handled things very well on handling the back, how it was happening, uh, all the nitty-gritties of the event basically. And of course, how Dhruti managed everything during the event. Shrey, of course, by Shrey, like I miss it whenever Shrey is busy, because I mean
yeah,
that guy is a mood. Shrey is a mood. Whenever you talk to him, Shrey is a mood. So I mean, of course, all of them worked really hard. I remember a week back, we had a kind of a bit of a standout with one of the fan clubs, because what happened was they had already decided on their dates with another fan club for
yeah,
for the same karaoke final to be final screening to be held in a different place, in a different location. So of course it was a challenge, but I really like how sometimes how, oh sorry. So I really like how sometimes you know people take it upon their ego in a positive way, and some great things come out of it. So
yeah,
I remember how me and the rest of the team just took it upon their ego that we are going to do it, we are going to make it happen. And I think it's about how you use it. It's like you can
yeah.
use sometimes negative emotions in a positive way, as long as you're not doing any harm to anyone and just doing it for something that creates special memories for you. So I think that
Yeah,
was one
and
of them.
sir, I think what I'm gonna do is I am gonna put you in a bit of a spot, and I am
Uh,
gonna ask
you
you
have
to
put me on that a few times, but that I cannot mention on the
yeah,
podcast. If you know.
but but sir, tell us more about the particular challenges that you had faced in terms of putting together that event. You of course touched
Yeah.
upon the fact that there were certain venue discrepancies, this, that, whatever. But for you and I remember how amazing for me, even when after the event happened, several months after the event, I would go around and tell that yes, Anukarsh, my co-host, he was sitting in Meerut, and of course you were preparing for your PG at that time. You
Hmm.
still are. Not much has changed, but but I mean, in a so anyway, I mean, of course, all in good humor. But sir, for you to
Hmm.
sit in a different city and put together an event regarding different, that requires the coordination of different stakeholders. And I don't think
Hmm.
anyone who is as, and this particular aspect is not about passion, I would say. This is something beyond it. You need to you need to be considerate enough to take all opinions in place. There would be mini skirmishes, or how not everybody would be on the same page at all times. So do tell us a bit more about how you were able to manage those things, and probably at the end of it, as you said, full of a great event.
So I think what that event gave me was an understanding of the footballing fan culture also in the country.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I have to like put it in a nutshell, the football fan culture in the country is a lot, and it's at its peak right now. I think the only problem is that the execution is probably as bad as the administration in the All India Football Federation. That's how
you
it is
just put
now.
it, you just put it there. Now,
Yeah.
almost like the minimum chances we had of working with AIFF. If they ever listen to them, they're like, we are not gonna say it. We are gonna not work with them anymore.
Yeah, but then I mean, being straightforward is something which I've always been, and I struggle to actually, like, sometimes be it across the line. So now what happens is now that like within the Chelsea fan clubs and other fan clubs also, I felt there were certain things which could have been executed better, and I'm not saying
Yeah,
that they didn't do their well. They see, everywhere you go, you'll find good and bad people.
yeah,
Thankfully, we were lucky enough to find more good than bad, of course,
yeah,
100%. But at the execution level, there were definitely challenges during the event in terms of the sponsors we had, in terms of getting people on board. But when I look back at it, having companies like Fan Code, Ultimate Champions, Carabao itself at the event, it meant a lot. Having that call from Chelsea FC officially, that
yeah,
it's an official event, and we can do a video call and this that, that meant a lot for
yeah,
the event to be featured on Chelsea's match day program. I think
yeah,
these are things which you remember. These are things which definitely must have been a moment for everyone involved there. And I think, of course, like in terms of challenges you do face whenever an event is being, kind of held. That I remember we had this thing with Carabao, how they had a lot of cans in, and we could not really have them at the event in terms
yeah,
of selling them or in terms of being able to provide it to the people there. But still, like, I think one thing which we have learned right from the first episode of the podcast is that the show must go on. Simple as that.
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
of course, like if it is a very big calamity, that's a different thing. But I think it was all manageable. And people, I think what I really liked about it is that people had headstrong mindset. They just
Yeah,
wanted to go forward, they just wanted to do it. And I think that's what separated our team from another team which might have flinched at that time.
yeah,
So I think huge credit to everyone who was involved there. Truth be told, yes, I did maybe a bit in terms of making the event happening, getting the sponsors. But at the end of the day, I think everything in life boils down to execution. A lot of
yeah,
things can be said in a lot of places, speeches, conferences, books, everything. But at the end of the day, it's all about how people are executing it. And I felt our team executed it very well in how
yeah,
they held their own. They didn't flinch when things were going wrong, and I'm proud of them, each one of them. And even like the team which has worked, like the rest of the team, Ame, Devyansh, and Rahul,
yeah,
Daksh now has joined our team. Shreya Dhrutyate, of course, I mentioned. Vanish, of course, has whenever he has been available, he
yeah.
has been
Quite a
nothing
guy.
less than
Yeah,
a
quite a guy.
yeah, yeah, he has been nothing less than Thiago for us. So whenever he has been available, he has been really good. So of course, like it has been great.
I
I
just,
just hope,
I have a very bad joke in my mind that I want to crack.
yeah,
You
yeah. I'm
mentioned,
just Huh?
No, I
Yeah,
don't think you. No, I don't think you have it in your mind yet. You mentioned Vanish is Thiago when he's available, and then he is Tata Tiago that keeps breaking down every once in a while. So yeah. But
yeah,
but do you know? But
exactly.
do you know the reason why Tata named that car Tiago?
थियागो के ऊपर किया था क्या? I have no idea.
Yeah. So basically,
Huh?
when Tata had basically released that car, they had
Uh-huh.
Messi as their global ambassador, and then
Yeah.
Messi's son at that time, Thiago, was born at that time, and to honor their global ambassador's son, they named it Tata Tiago. I mean, that is
Oh,
yeah, that is one of the
actually the story.
yeah.
Oh,
I
oh,
have read that in a couple of places. So pretty
oh.
great. I mean, it's just lovely how I sometimes read about these stories and then I go, oh, this is how it happened. So,
You know,
but
I'm hearing it from you. That's why I'm believing it. Otherwise, if someone else would have told me, I would have said, "Hey, WhatsApp पे पढ़ा है तुमने पक्का?" But because you are saying, I agree
yeah,
कि ऐसा
no.
कुछ
So
होगा.
basically, yeah, actually, you are right. Credibility in our time of so
हाँ.
much social media and information overload sometimes can be an issue. But I read it in two, three separate places, so it might as well be true. Yes,
You
looking.
know, just one thing I'll interrupt you
Yeah,
here with.
please,
When you
please, yeah,
talked about credibility, I remember Mayank Yadav is a cricketer who has, like, really been
yes,
getting up the ranks,
yes,
despite his injury issues. Now, he said in an interview that Ratan Tata once said that it's not about making the right decision, it's about making the decision right after you have made it.
yeah,
But the fact is, he never said it. It was
yeah,
actually a quote which had been misquoted from somewhere else. So, like, that's the overload of social media. And he said he had been using it as his life's motto. So that is
yeah.
like the prime example of, information overload here.
Yeah, absolutely. That is right. That is absolutely right. And speaking about so many quotes and different people that we have met over the years, but having a special focus on the last 12 months, sir, what have been one of your favorite episodes that we have done in the last 1 year?
So, like, I think, as I will always say, every episode adds a bit of value, adds a bit of, promise to what we are doing, what we are
Yeah,
creating, 100%. Uh, I particularly enjoyed the episode with Vaibhav Dhar sir, which hasn't been released yet, but
yeah,
it was actually a very, very invigorating episode. I felt you and I both had a very big burst of energy after that episode because we learned so much. The fact
yeah,
that he took out time after the podcast to talk to us about a lot of
yeah,
things. It was actually pretty cool. Uh, the Ranjit sir episode, if I'm not wrong, was somewhere this year on this
yeah,
year only.
yeah. It
That
was at the
that
beginning
went
of this year. Yeah,
Yeah, that was actually something which is very special for us, having a name as big as that on the podcast. And Aditya was also there, so it was a
yes,
very nice episode in terms of doing that episode, having him on board. It like was a huge experience in its own. And I think the guests we have had, of course, have had their own value systems, have, like, all of them teach you a lot, for that
yeah,
matter. And for me as a Liverpool fan, it has meant like a very good and happy uh, thought in my head that we have had people like James Pierce, David Lynch,
yeah,
and Paul Gost all on the Indie Football podcast. So my life is
yes.
complete at this point of time. So that's why I'm focusing more on PG preparation at this point. But yeah, jokes
Yeah,
apart, it's of course been a very good year. And of course, like, my favorite moment this year has to be my birthday, where you came despite having a cold. Almost gave me a cold though, but you got the best of gifts. So yeah, that
yeah.
meant a lot to me. And yeah, of course, like, what has been your favorite moment of the year in terms of
Yeah.
the podcast?
Uh, you know, and of course, to answer this question, what I'm going to also provide is a bit of a context. I think in the 90 episodes that we have done so far, I think 70 episodes, the guests that we have got is through people that you have contacted first, right? Because you have been the go-getter in terms of narrowing down on who will come and speak in our episode. And actually, it has been quite an elite list of quite significant people in the professional world of sports, but especially football, of course. But for me, why I would mention one episode that probably stays in my heart very in a very profound manner, and it is the Pradyum Reddy episode. CEO of
Oh
Demco.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Because for two reasons. First reason is I had accompanied my father to the India Energy Week 2024, which happened in Goa earlier this year. And I was there for 4 days. And one of the reasons I will also uh, admit this, the reason I have always tried to go to all of my father's official office tours is because he gets sanctioned a certain amount of money that he can order food from his hotel every day, and and I just probably book a ticket and even go there, because and it is a pretty good amount that even if you order like probably 10 items, you would probably still not go through that threshold. First 3 days I ate so much that the fourth day I was like, okay, I don't want to eat more. Let's look at what kind of football is going on in Goa, and then I asked people who were batchmates of my GISB class, and who belonged to Goa. They mentioned, there are certain I League 2 games going on, which is the third division of Indian football. And even I have educated myself more about Indian football this year, the most. Before the first 2 years, it was more about just getting the podcast going on. This year has been more about thinking what can potentially be done, the long term implications that our podcast and our work can have. And eventually I landed up in that I League 2 game between Dempos and Kekre FC. And I met a person. I asked him about, please tell me more about this entire thing, because I don't know anything. There's just and there's no crowd. Had you been there, sir, you would have felt like you are in the middle of nowhere, and there's a football match happening. But then I
Right.
saw a group of people going through the C license coaching program. AIFF has this entire coaching program. It starts with a D, which is for the younger kids under 9 and below. Then we have a
That's
C,
how we
then we
like
have,
it. Uh,
yeah, then we have a C grade, then we have B grade, A grade, and for professional coaches, you need to have a A plus accreditation, A
oh,
plus licensed coaching certificate. So yeah,
okay.
that's what I asked one of these guys, and then he told me, this person over here, Pradyum Reddy, he's the CEO of uh, Dempos, and you should go and ask him a bit more if you have a podcast and all. And then I just remember the entire minutes of apprehension I had just to approach him physically. I played it 10 times in my mind. What do I go him, and what are the first words that I mention it to him when I go up to him? So then I said
I
hi.
will just give one context to our users. Doipan is that person who has never ever neared that in front of a girl. So
Yeah,
if he
yeah,
has neared
actually,
that, then you must know.
yeah, absolutely. And I will, of course, a parallel theme of this story is, and I'm sure it is true for you as well, sir. We have often been forced, and I like this about this journey, is that we have often been pushed to do new things. We have definitely been people who know a lot more because of this podcast, who have done certain things that we might not have done because of this podcast not been in place in the first place. So anyway, yeah, eventually I went up to him. I told him about our podcast, and actually, sir, this is what makes keeps me going even more. Whenever I say someone, whenever I say to someone, especially who works in football in India, football in India, let's be honest, it is not the most optimistic situation right now. So even
Yeah,
people
yeah.
like Anand Vardhan, who like episode number 90, right? Anand Vardhan, when he comes across, people like we indie football podcast, is valued, especially in places where football is trying to develop in India. And going
Hmm.
forward, one of my plans also, and of course we will have time to speak about future of IFP. I want to ensure that we are in places that we are valued the most, uh,
Hmm.
and I am actually reading a book called Never Wrestle with a Pig, which is quite a funny name. I don't know why the author mentioned it, kept this name. But the author of this person is quite interesting, sir. His name is Mark McCormack, and I think I've told you this before. He is the founder of the first ever sports management company in the world called IMG, International Management Group. So he's
Oh,
written 3-4 books on his experience of sports business and in general things. So he mentioned about the challenges he had initial in his initial years, because sports was such a niche uh, area to operate even in the 19, and he's someone who had made his company in the 1970s, 1960s, 1980s.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, he mentioned about we need to make the extra effort to go into spheres, circles, environments where what we do is valued more. Because to be
Yeah,
honest, right now in India, and India at the, I would go as far as saying someone as great as Mark McCormack, and maybe this would be one of the big quotes of my lifetime. Mark McCormack would have struggled to do what he did in the world of sports had he grown up in India, you know because
mm-hmm.
India is a completely different market, you know, and I want to educate myself more in the direction of where we could probably, and this, of course, eventually it should lead to something monetizable, it should lead to something that we could do this full time, sustainable for all the people that we have just mentioned. But can we create value that really stands the test of time is where I feel the future of IFP is going, which I feel I have made a wonderful effort in segueing into the final aspect of this episode, right, sir? So for you, sir, what do you think is what are the immediate next steps or long-term thing that you have thought about the podcast? Because I'm sure, sir, over the last 3 years, especially with the kind of experiences that we have had, our long term, medium term, short term goals keep changing a bit. So tell me more about what's in your mind regarding these things.
So what I'm thinking at this point of time, after having taking feedback from people, having discussed things, and of course these are things which are of course subject to a lot of clearances, subject to a lot of talks with
Yeah,
you and of course the rest of the team, is most of all doing physical podcasts also, because I've
yeah,
been in my free time I have been scouring it all across Delhi NCR and other places also, trying to ask which studio we can go to, what we can do. So that is something which definitely is something which is on my agenda list. And
yeah,
other things are doing actually doing fun things together, in terms of when I say that, in terms of maybe taking maybe meeting people, meeting certain people, or learning things together, like
yeah,
like a fun competitive, fun healthy competition, that
yeah,
we can do, we
absolutely,
can
sir.
do this, that we can, in terms of learning new things, and also talking more to Premier League clubs and
Yeah,
seeing how we can help them and how we can, kind of get to work with them. Because
yeah,
I think so far we have, established some name in the Indian footballing sphere all across India. Yeah, I think some people do recognize us, especially with the work we have done. But more than that, I think I'm also looking forward to potentially also having a Premier League footballer on board this year.
yeah,
I actually, I can't name it right now, but there are a couple of Indian footballers who are very famous. I can't name them right now, who I have been in talks with, and hopefully we can have them on the podcast in a month or two. So
yeah,
those are things which are going on in the pipeline, in the back room. And other than that, yeah, like the sky is the limit. So one step at a time, but yes, I want to do incredible things. I want uh, to, more than anything, make a difference, create a podcast of value, something which you see, you want to get hooked to it, that
yeah,
sort of content which makes you want to listen to it more, and
yeah,
doesn't have, you don't have to bring PG plus content in it just for the sake of it, which we have it.
yeah.
So that is something which I'm looking forward to. But of course, please please drop your thoughts, your 2 pennies on it. What do you say?
No, sir,
Your 2 cents
absolutely.
on it,
I think,
sorry.
yeah, yeah.
It's
No,
it's 1:27 a.m. So
yeah,
yeah.
no, sir. And to put things into context as to why Anukar sir just mentioned the time, it's because probably we are going. I am someone who absolutely struggles to do something else when there's a top football match going. And I think we can reveal this. Today is the 22nd of December, and in a couple of minutes time Barcelona plays Atletico, and
Ah,
it's a top 2 battle for the La Liga tournament. And yeah, I mean, that is what last thing that just came to my mind, sir, and I think it's worth for you to share it with people who might listen and find more value out of this. As I mentioned earlier, sir, 70 almost 70 people you must have called to this episode, to this podcast. Tell us more about the process of reaching out, cold calling, cold mailing, cold texting people, because I think you have got a tremendous success rate in it as well. There's a lot for even me to learn from you in this. So please tell us more about it.
Okay, so actually, this comes from something which I saw in a. I won't say podcasts really existed in the 2010s, but
Yeah.
there was this time when All India AIB. I don't want to say the full form, otherwise YouTube will just put a 18
Yeah.
plus here.
Yeah.
So
Of course.
AIB, what they did was that they were once having their own podcast, sort of thing with, I think, Ranbir Kapoor or Shah Rukh Khan. One of them it was. So I think Rohan Joshi it was, and
Yeah.
it's funny actually. Rohan Joshi is actually a good friend of one of my family members. I just cannot reveal it for certain reasons, but okay. Rohan Joshi actually mentioned in it that the power of cold calling, no matter what the era, is
Uh,
will lead you to a lot of successes if you keep on working at it.
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I have taken that lesson since I was like very young, maybe 10, 11 years old from that time. And I have realized that every time you think that certain people are unapproachable. When I was, say, in 2008 or 9, I used to think that the likes of James Pierce was like absolute legend, getting LFC, I think Liverpool FC CEO Peter Moore was unapproachable, and uh, talking to such people. John Dykes, someone who who of course is someone who will be coming on the podcast soon again, is someone who I had watched as a presenter growing up. I thought he cannot come on the podcast. Manas Singh, who comes on Sony,
Yeah.
I thought he was unapproachable, totally out of it.
Samara
But
Hunter, for that
Semra,
matter.
I remember definitely you putting up a
Yeah.
story for Semra Hunter, which we cannot get much into the details of, and
Someday,
her coming on the
someday,
podcast.
someday, I'm gonna reveal everything that we did.
Yeah. I hope we have enough money to fight off the legal cases after that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It
So
almost no. It almost sounds as if I have molested someone. That did not happen, but yeah. Okay.
no. One thing I can say is that Doipan is
Yeah,
one of the most genuine guys you will meet. So, but of
yeah.
course, like he's not available that way because he because he's
Yeah.
taken by me. Just kidding. No, but on a serious
Shamoy
note,
leaves the chat.
yeah. But again,
Yeah.
like. Yeah, so coming back to the thought,
Yeah.
so may it be Instagram, may it be Twitter, I think everyone on social media has left some hints,
Yeah.
and it's like like you used to find Pokemons on Pokemon Go, with the
Yeah.
Avengers go after the those stones for that matter. I think at the end of the day, it's about finding those little things on social media that are scattered as information and being able to use them to reach out to them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to like bend in the finger.
Yeah.
And oh my god, what am I even saying? But when I say हिंदी में कहावत है कि उंगली टेढ़ी करनी
1:30
पड़ती है.
a.m. 1:30 a.m.
Yeah,
You are
yeah,
getting into that zone.
yeah, because like sometimes that if there's a certain guest, he or she might come if you can get their friend on the podcast, or if you can get someone close to them on the podcast, or if you can get in touch with them. So
Yeah.
I think that is something which you'll have to do, where you have to run your brains. Like I think getting someone on the podcast is a game of chess,
Yeah.
especially like if it's different if you have, like, say, with all due respect, Ranveer Alavadia has like been in a school where he had the likes of a lot of people he has brought on the podcast. He met them in the school he grew up in. So if you don't have that sort of background, it's about how you can create that network.
Absolutely.
It's a domino effect. One friend can lead to another friend, and another famous person. So as Drake said, another one bites the dust.
Yeah.
So it's all like that, and not Drake. I think it was someone else. Whatever. But the whole point is,
You are Mayank Yadav 2.0 only, sir.
no, that was Drake only, I think. But again, I think it's the domino effect. May it be LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever the platform. It's about finding it and being able to look for it in the right places.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that is it. Keep working. What I would say to anyone starting a podcast today, anyone trying to reach out to famous people, like the so-called famous people, is, first of all, I of course, like, I have seen how formal my dad is in his professional life, and a lot of other people. But I think once you normalize talking to them like humans and less like stars, they are more likely to come in, because then they
Yeah.
treat you like people. So, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they are humans like you, just more successful at this point of time, with all due respect to them. And if you want to get to that level, maybe you just have to treat them in a way that, makes them want to reciprocate it to you.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. Absolutely. I think no better way to close out on this wonderful episode that we sit down at the end of each December. And I hope, sir, this tradition of sitting down once in a year keeps going on. I feel once again that I've got the best person to do it, even though I
Yeah,
know you have the same. The feelings are mutual, but of
yeah,
course there are many things that I've learned from you, many things that I keep learning from you, your tenacity, different aspects that really make this podcast of an
likewise, bro.
extremely enjoyable and joyous ride for me as well. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
This is to yet another year of pretty interesting events at the podcast, and thank you for everyone else for tuning in. We will be back again soon. Good night. Take care.
Yeah. Shabbat khair.